Welcome to another Digital Anarchy tutorial. I'm Jim Tierney, president of Digital Anarchy, and in this tutorial we're going to take a look at flicker caused by LED lights that looks like rolling bands. And we're going to use the Flicker Free plugin from Digital Anarchy to fix it in Davinci Resolve. And we'll also talk a little bit about why you want to use Flicker Free versus Resolve's built-in Deflicker tool. The rolling bands are probably the most common problem that we see people buying Flicker Free for. There are a variety of causes and different ways the rolling bands look. So we'll take a look at a couple different clips and we'll see how it works. And to speed this video up, I'm not going to explain what every setting does. We have lots of other tutorials that go over that in depth. But before we dive in, let's discuss the difference between Resolve's Deflicker plugin and Flicker Free, and why you want to use Flicker Free. In short, Flicker Free is going to handle more situations of flicker. The built-in Deflicker tool in Resolve isn't bad. It does work on some footage, but Flicker Free is much more powerful. And with this example here, we've got some pretty difficult rolling bands. We have a moving camera, and if we look at the Resolve Deflicker tool, we'll see that the flicker is better, but you definitely have those rolling bands still there. And if we look at Flicker Free, the bands are completely gone. And so it just does a much better job with this. The Resolve Deflicker tool doesn't really handle stuff like handheld cameras and fast motion very well. And so we can take a look at this other example from a music video where we had a lot of flicker going on in the background. And he does a leg kick here. And so again, a fast moving object, a leg. And the problem here is that the Resolve Deflicker is much blurrier than Flicker Free. So if I turn this off, we can see it gets much more, the leg gets much more solid. If we turn it back on, you can see it almost becomes transparent. You can almost see the background behind it, sort of. And it just looks not great. Whereas if you look at Flicker Free, you don't really have that problem. It does change the coloration a little bit, but it really doesn't change the look of his leg, and so it produces a much better result. Again, it's mostly on handheld type footage or fast moving objects that you're going to see the real difference between Flicker Free and the Resolve Deflicker tool. But the true test is to try the demo of Flicker Free yourself. You can see how it compares on your footage. The demo is free and can be downloaded from our website, and you can try it out yourself. Alright, so let's get back to deflickering with Flicker Free. We'll start off with the same clip that we just showed in the Davinci Flicker Free comparison. As you saw, it has some pretty serious camera movement. It's got some pretty bad rolling bands. And so, of course, the first step is to apply Flicker Free, and that's going to be over in your filters under Open Effects. And you can see Flicker Free right here, so we're going to drag and drop that onto our clip here. And when we first apply it, the default preset does an okay job of deflickering it, but you can see there's still some flicker, there's actually some blurring in the background, and we don't want either of those. So let's try a few different things. One of the first things you want to do is try turning off detect motion. That is a faster way of dealing with motion problems, but it's not as good as motion compensation. So let's turn this off, and we're going to turn motion compensation on. You can see it got a lot more blurry, but we'll turn motion compensation on, and that will pretty much solve our blurriness problems. And let's take a look and see if it solves the flicker problems. And if we play this back, you can see that it does. There's no more blurring, there's no more flicker. It looks pretty great. And so motion compensation is a really critical tool for this kind of work. Sometimes you need to have motion compensation and detect motion turned on at the same time, but usually it's going to be better if you can use just one or the other. As I mentioned, detect motion's faster, but motion compensation generally provides better results when you have fast moving objects, or handheld camera as we do in this case. One thing that can really complicate rolling bands is if they're really slow, as they are in the case of this footage. You can see that, if I zoom in on this, that we have two types of rolling bands actually. There's a very slow pattern that's going on in the background, and a very fast pattern that's happening on top of it. Faster bands tend to be easier to deflicker than slower ones, and this is because they're happening over a shorter time period. And so if we just apply flicker free, as we already have, we can take a look at what the default settings do. And that's improved it. It's definitely kind of sorted out the faster bands, but we still have those slower bands happening in the background. And so the trick to fixing that is to increase the amount of time that we're looking at to deal with them. So for example, if I increase time radius to say 14, and we play that back, you can see that the slow bands are much better, but you can also see that they're still kind of there. And you might not be able to quite see that on YouTube, but I can definitely see it here. And what I'm doing by increasing time radius to 14 is I'm now looking at 14 frames before the current frame and 14 frames after. So we're looking at almost a second of video to deflicker this one frame. But that's not quite doing it, so I can increase my time step to 2 in this case. And that's still going to look at 14 frames, but now it's going to look at every other frame. So instead of just 14, I'm now looking at 28 frames back and 28 frames forward for basically 2 seconds of video. And if I play this back, you can see that the flicker is pretty much done. We've done a great job of getting rid of both the fast moving bands and the slow moving bands. So when you have those slower moving bands, you need a much larger time period that you're looking at, and that can be either achieved with time radius, which is the number of frames it's looking at, 14 frames back, 19 frames back, 8 frames back, and then time step is controlling the interval, so either every other frame, every third frame, every fourth frame, and you can get up to around 7 seconds worth of video that you're analyzing to deflicker a certain area. So that's pretty much it for deflickering rolling bands in Davinci Resolve. Again, we're using flicker free from Digital Anarchy, and you can go to our website and download a free trial. We've got lots of other great tutorials there. And if you have footage that you're having trouble with, you can just email that to us and we'll take a look at it, give you some recommendations as to what might work for it. Don't want to send the entire clip, maybe just a few seconds of it. But we're happy to take a look at it and let you know what settings will work for it. So thanks for watching the tutorial, and head over to digitalanarchy.com.